The other thing too, that if you watch this video, the producers did a great job like cutting it so that you can kind of see like Mark get more and more excited through the whole thing. All right, so I'm really excited about today's Shark Tank React because I actually know the founder, and she is awesome. So you are in for a real treat today. Let's get started.
Next up is a modern version of a favorite food.
Yo, Sharks, how y'all doing today? My name is Mrs. Jenny Goldfarb, and I'm from the mean streets in New York City. I'm a fast-talking, no-nonsense city girl, and I'm here seeking $100,000 for 10% on my business, Unreal Deli. Capiche?
Capiche.
Now, although I hail from New York City, about a decade ago, I moved to beautiful, sunny Los Angeles. There, I shed the pesky accent. What I didn't shed, my deep love for the authentic delis New York is famous for. I wanted corned beef, I wanted pastrami, I wanted it stacked thick on rye with Russian and mustard and all the fixins'. So you can imagine my dismay when I became vegan and realized I couldn't eat my beloved corned beef or pastrami at all. That's why I created Mrs. Goldfarb's Unreal Deli, home of the most mouth-watering, decadent, vegan corned beef. That's right, Sharks. At Mrs. Goldfarb's Unreal Deli, we use nothing but 100% super clean plant-based ingredients that are low in carb, low in fat, and protein-packed to make our Unreal Deli meat. Don't just take my word for it. Please dig in and try for yourselves.
Let's go!
A little.
All right, so I just want to pause it there for a second. I love her energy, right? Like, how could you not get excited about whatever it is she's going to sell? And I love that she, comes in, she's like, I'm from New York, and, I've got this heritage and delis, and she's going to talk about that in a minute. But just so much energy. I love that. And then the other thing that I love is, like, she has felt this pain point, right? She has this love for deli meats that she grew up with, and then she became a vegan, and then she's still, like, just dying for really good vegan alternatives for deli meat, and goes out and finds a solution. I love backing entrepreneurs that have felt that pain point personally, and have, because of that pain point, they have gone on that journey to find the solution, which she obviously has. So I just think that's fantastic, and I'm excited to see how the sharks react.
Closer to you there is our sweeter rendition with some my signature Russian dressing and some apple slaw. Further back, a little more of a zinger with kraut and spicy.
So I've actually tried the food. It's actually pretty good, and
Thank you.
I don't actually really like a lot of alternative foods. This one's good.
Use ingredients like beets, chickpeas, tomatoes, and a complex spice blend to make my deli meat not only delicious, but also incredibly nutritious. Sharks, I'm a fighter, and I'm gonna keep fighting until our Unreal Deli meat is in every grocery store, deli, and restaurant worldwide. So, Sharks?
So I really like that she highlights the food and the ingredients that go into it, because so often you look at these alternative products and there's like all kinds of like chemicals and, other like engineered foods that kind of sound gross. And you're like, yeah, I'm not eating meat, but I'm eating something that's synthetic, and I don't know that that's any more healthy. So I really like that, but then she's also done a great job of like making it look and taste like meat, and pastrami in particular.
So, Sharks, who wants to sell some meat? Or do I gotta break some knees around here?
Jennifer, what's the calorie count on a sandwich?
100 per 2 ounces.
Oh, that's
Good.
really good.
Yeah,
great.
it's really good. It's super low in fat.
It's not bad.
So who came up with the formula for this and
I came up with the
developed it?
recipe. I became vegan about 5 years ago. I ate meat my whole life, and then I started seeing videos of animal cruelty, documentaries, and it was so heartbreaking. I couldn't stand to continue to eat the way I was eating, and I had a meat and potatoes husband and some young kids, and I had to figure out how to reconfigure my cooking methods.
So this investor is the founder of 23andMe. I'm actually an investor in 23andMe, so huge fan. Her question is really interesting because she's asking like, hey, who came up with the formula here? And like, I think I know where her brain is going, which is like, how proprietary is this, right? A lot of the reason why all these alternative meat products have these like complex formulas and like, you know, synthetic ingredients and so forth is because it gives them like patents and other things that they can use to really create barriers to entry. And I think that's what she's kind of getting at. Like, is there what's the secret sauce here? Is the secret sauce like you have this unique ingredients and recipe, or do you actually have something that's more patented and protectable from that perspective?
So I bought every vegan cookbook I could find, and I figured out how to cook from the produce aisle and the grains aisle. Ultimately, the food started getting good, and so I realized there are a lot of delicious burgers on the market in the plant-based world, but there was no authentic, classic deli meat.
So how long have you been doing this?
Only a handful of months. We just incorporated this year. Right now, we're at about a half a dozen of the largest, most iconic delis around Los Angeles. But next month, we're coming into 58 Whole Foods stores. And starting in January, we're going to be in 2 30-plus chain restaurants.
What's your history prior to this?
My history actually goes back almost 100 years. My great-grandfather emigrated from Romania. There he is in the middle. I never had the pleasure of meeting him.
I really like how she like dodged the question, because he was probably asking, you know, like, tell me about your business experience. And she's like, let me tell you about my heritage and how that lines up perfectly with this business. Like, it's a great like dodge and feint, which I love. But to her credit, you know, she talks about like her ancestry and how she's like kind of grew up and lived in this business all the way up. And yeah, I love her answer there, and also how she kind of dodged the question.
He emigrated from Romania as a teenager, not speaking the language, without his parents.
So did mine. One of mine, by the way.
I know. I was just thinking, for us to be sitting here on the stage today, it's like what our parents and grandparents did for us to get here. I know. He came from Romania, started working as a dishwasher in his first New York City deli, and then went on to come and own and operate several New York City delis and cafeterias. So corned beef, pastrami, this is in my bloodline.
So how are the sales now in the delis?
So we're brand new. We're just a few months in. And in this time, we've pulled off 10,000 from the local delis. And we just launched, just a week ago, our e-commerce cold chain store. And we sold $2,000 in the first 24 hours. It was up. We didn't even put any advertising into it.
What do you sell it for,
Okay.
and what's your cost?
I pay $3.80 per pound to have it made. And I sell it for an average between $8 to $10 a pound.
Now, Jennifer, I have to ask you this question,
Please.
okay? There are two very large, well-capitalized
So I just want to hit on like some of these numbers. As you know, I love digging into the numbers. So it costs her $3.80 per pound. She sells it for $8 to $10 a pound. That's pretty good. That's giving her like 50 to 60% markup. The delis are probably then going to sell it for kind of double that. So you're looking at $16 to $20 per pound, which does feel a little expensive. But if you compare it to like top tier deli meats, it's actually probably about in range. I think most good deli meat is in that $10 to $20 range per pound. So, you know, it feels a little expensive, but for the, you know, all the alternative plant-based foods also sell a little at a bit of a premium. So I think that's great. Like, she's right in a good price point. Gross margins are strong, 50 to 60% for this type of product. Like, yeah, I like that profile.
public companies doing plant-based meats. What stops them from doing this derivative of meat and crushing you like the corned beef cockroach you are?
Because I'm going to start working with one of you, and we're going to bring this to market.
Good answer.
Jennifer,
Good answer.
why so much, the value? I mean, you're asking for $1 million valuation, but at such an early stage.
Agreed.
Because I'll be honest, I invested in one of those companies just on the market, and
Yeah.
I made 3 times the amount of money you're asking for in a matter of 3 weeks. And
That's
I didn't
good.
have to make any calls.
Okay.
I didn't have to do anything. So why this valuation
Fair
of
enough.
$1 million?
Because there are teams of plant-based investors out there, and they've already come knocking on my door, and they're ready to give me $500,000 for
So then
10%
why
of
are
my
you here?
business.
Why?
So, okay, so I love that. So she's saying, she's building FOMO, right? She's like, well, there's other investors and they're already giving, willing to give me up to $500,000 for 10%, which is inferring, post money of $5 million. And she's only asking for $1 million. So she's like giving them a great deal. And yeah, I just love how she like builds some FOMO there. She doesn't give it too much detail, but enough that they're like, well, if somebody else is interested, and particularly somebody that's an expert in the space, and they're willing to pay that kind of valuation, maybe I should be interested.
Why would you offer to us for 100?
I'll tell you why. Because
I've been waiting. Why?
You ready?
Yeah, I'm
Because-
ready.
Because one shark dollar is worth 5 regular dollars
Yes.
in the real world. That's why.
So why so much? The
When you-
valuation. That's the point, right? Aren't you saying that we bring value to this, but
Yes.
but
I bring value
You give it
too.
to
But what she is giving them a lot of value, right? If she has a legitimate offer of $5 million and she's saying $1 worth 5, right? And she wants to raise it at $1 million valuation, she is giving them exactly like what she believes. And to her credit, like she like talks it up, and she's like, hey, one shark dollar's worth 5, and they all agree, right? So now she's got them on board that like, hey, if I have an offer worth 5 and I'm saying that your dollars are worth 5x other investors, then you got to agree it's $1 million valuation.
She's giving to a fraction of what she's already been offered.
valuation.
I bring value too. My projection's $3 million next year.
Well, you haven't lost your New York hustle.
I know.
I love like her confidence. Like she obviously knows how to sell, and part of the reason she's so good at selling is because she has so much confidence in herself and obviously in her product.
Listen, my projections for next year is that I'm going to look like the guy who plays Thor. It's not going to happen, most likely.
Jennifer, do you have any flexibility in your equity? Because I find it a little light. I don't think
Yeah,
you're worth
it is
half a
light.
mil.
I came here to negotiate.
Okay,
I
so
can't give away
I'm
a
gonna throw you
huge-
an offer. I'm gonna throw you an offer. Let's start this
Kevin.
going. And I will help you as Chef Wonderful. I'm amazing. I'll help sell it.
And he's
Okay.
selling beef.
So I'm thinking I'll give you the $100,000, and I want 20%.
Thank you for that offer.
So I love this space. I'm an investor in other plant-based foods. It's a super hot space right now in Silicon Valley. It's a lot of money going into this. So I'd love if you could help me get a little bit more comfortable with, why is it with all the Silicon Valley money that's coming and some of those big companies out there, it's hard for me to understand how you can stay protected.
You mean the
How is this
cockroach
actually gonna
factor.
be?
So
How
I'll
is the
I'll
yes,
simplify.
exactly.
Okay, so I think she makes a really good point, and that is that if you look at Beyond Meat and a lot of the competitors, there is a ton of venture money flowing into those businesses, and they're worth like billions of dollars. And so if you're like this really small company, you don't have anything that's like super proprietary in terms of like how you make it. It's really just like dump a bunch of ingredients into a blender and then put it in like a mold that can be sliced. That's very different from like a highly patented, highly researched, Beyond Meat process, for example. And so how do you compete when they've got IP protection and they've got millions of dollars and partnerships that they can plow into building more partnerships, building brand recognition, doing marketing, all of those other things. And, I think it's a very, very astute point. Like if you're a pure play venture fund looking at this business, where do you get like that competitive advantage that you would get in a Beyond Meat? And, I think frankly, that is like one of the drawbacks of this business is that I think over time, like her biggest potential mechanism for creating barriers to entry is really just her brand. And building brands cost a lot of money because invariably, like somebody could take what she's built and her ingredients and recipes and come up with something, similar and compete with her. And especially if they are more successful in raising money, then they could outpace her in terms of spend and marketing and branding and so forth. And so that represents like a massive risk in this business.
Simplify.
Exactly.
How do you deal
Jennifer,
with the
I'll
cockroach
simplify
factor?
everything. Jennifer, I'll simplify everything.
Go ahead.
I love it.
Yeah.
I went vegetarian.
Yeah.
I'll make you an offer that my style, right? I like the whole yes or no. Let's
it's
negotiate
crap.
right now.
It's
right?
crap.
I'll give you $250,000 for 20%.
Okay. But this is right now, do or die?
Do or
No,
die.
more
Tell me
than
what you
what
want to
you
do.
were
I'll be on
asking.
the
More
front
than what
page
you
of
were
it.
asking
I'll be the
for.
poster child for it. We'll hustle.
Okay, so I love what Mark does here. So Mark's watching the other sharks, right? And he's seeing that like Damon is definitely interested, right? Damon's just trying to get a better deal, but Damon is definitely interested. And from 23andMe, she's definitely interested because she's seeing, what's happening in Silicon Valley. She knows it's a big trend, big market. She's just trying to justify to herself how she could do a deal like this, that doesn't maybe have as many barriers to entry. So he knows he's got competition, And so I love what he does. He comes in and he's like, you were asking for $1 million post-money valuation, but really like pre-money, like what her business is worth today before any money goes in, she was asking for a $900,000 valuation on her business, which, let's be honest, like that's a pretty high valuation, because to date she's only done like $10,000 in revenue, $12,000 in revenue. Now, granted, it's only been a few months, but nonetheless, like, you've got almost no revenue. You do have some partnerships, which we're going to talk about, but like not a lot in revenue. So to price this thing at $900,000 with very little, like, that is high valuation. And so Mr. Wonderful comes in. He's obviously interested. He's offering like a $400,000 valuation. So he's cutting her down by more than half, but he's definitely interested. And you know, I'm probably assuming that Damon would have come in somewhere a little bit higher than Mr. Wonderful, but you know, we didn't get that far, because Mark Cuban comes in and he's like, you know what? $900,000 pre-money valuation, too low. I'm going to give you $1 million pre-money valuation, which is, if you watch, that's exactly what one of the other sharks is saying. She's like, it's higher than what you were asking for. You should definitely take it. Because he's going to offer her $250,000, which is, you know, 2.5 times what she wanted in terms of amount of cash, and he's going to do it at a higher valuation. So he's going to end up with a bigger chunk of the company, but she's going to end up with more cash through this deal and at a higher valuation than she was expecting. And so that's why Damon's like, oh crap, like, I'm going to lose this deal, and I like this space because I've made money here before. The other thing too, that if you watch this video, the producers did a great job like cutting it so that you can kind of see like Mark get more and more excited through the whole thing. And I think that's largely because he's a vegetarian. He knows like how hard it is to find really good vegetarian food. And after trying this, he's like, this is good. And I know like vegetarians and vegans are going to eat this up. The other thing too that I want to talk about is on the valuation side. So how do you justify $1 million valuation on this? Well, let's say that she's able to close the 58 Whole Foods. She's able to retain her delis, and then she's got these 2 restaurant chains coming on board. And let's say theoretically she gets her deli meat in all 30 of the restaurants for both of them, so that's 60 restaurants in total. So you're looking at 126 locations that are pushing her product. And even if all she does is $10,000 in revenue per location, that's going to represent $1.26 million of sales on a forward-looking basis. So really what Mark Cuban is paying for here is, even on a post-money valuation, he's paying like 1x forward revenue, which is, you know, typically when you're doing these types of calculations, you look at historical. But if you've got a business that's growing super fast and is hitting like this really big inflection point, sometimes it doesn't make sense to value the business looking backwards because, you know, it hasn't hit this inflection point yet. And so it just looks like a really expensive deal. But when you look at it in terms of forward looking and you say, okay, I believe she can generate $1.26 million in the next 12 months, then all of a sudden I'm just paying 1 times revenue. And that feels a lot more reasonable. So I actually think that this is a great deal for Mark. Love that she's like validated it with delis, like the pure bloods that like really know this industry and know deli meat. The fact that she's able to get them on board and that they're able to sell it to their customers and do well is like really good validation and a really good proof point to say, okay, I think when she launches Whole Foods, it's going to be successful there. Plus, I think he's just giving her a ton of value due to the fact that she is such an amazing saleswoman and brings so much passion and energy to this. And so when you're backing a company, like really you want to back that jockey, right? That person that's got a ton of passion and can really hustle and make this thing happen. And I think that's what he's seeing in her.
Mark Cuban, you got yourself a deal.
That's what's up.
Very, very smart.
I don't hustle. I don't mess around either.
sir.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Mazel tov. Thank you so
Wow.
much.
Congrats, Jennifer.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
Thank
you.
Now that I have a deal with Mark, the future of Unreal Deli is extraordinary. We thought we were doing great things before. Just wait and see what's gonna come. This business is a cash cow. We're making cash and we're saving the cows.
Awesome. Well, I hope you enjoyed that Shark Tank React as much as I did. Check out some of my other Shark Tank Reacts like the Books, and thanks for joining.